All right, let's go ahead and get into this UK stuff. I know sometimes when I talk about things that are going on outside the United States, people tend to zone out a little bit, and I get it because it's like, okay, that's for another country. I want you to pay attention to this one because I think what we're seeing is they are deploying the guinea pig in Europe for what's about ready to start making its way towards us. So what we're seeing in the UK when it comes to this, I think it's right around the corner for us as well. So I just want to make sure that I put that out there so we don't zone out a little bit on this. The UK online age verification triggers chaos, site bans, VPN surge. Every login is a data breach rehearsing its lines. So we talked about a couple weeks ago that the UK was getting ready to deploy their online age verification law, and that thing just went live, and it has been chaos. It has been absolute chaos. By the way, I don't do this very often, but I do want to make sure that I put this out there. If you guys are looking for a site to stay up to date on what's going on that is unbiased and just actually delivers good information, Reclaim the Net. I get so much information from them all the time. I'm constantly pulling them up on my screen. I vet their stuff, and there's just been stuff every once in a while here and there that isn't entirely correct, but for the most part, they nail this stuff down. So I don't usually recommend websites and stuff like that, but Reclaim the Net is one that I've been using for years, and they nail it. So if you're looking for a good one, I do recommend them. So UK online age verification triggers chaos, site bans, VPN surge. What do you get when you mix bad tech, worse policy, and a government that thinks facial recognition is just magic fairy dust? You get the UK Online Safety Act, now fully operational, steamrolling through privacy rights like a runaway train. Officially, it's about keeping kids safe. That's what they say. Unofficially, it's the biggest state-sanctioned privacy demolition in modern British internet history. Every part of the rollout, from mandatory face scans to platform-wide lockouts, reads less like child protection and more like a dry run for biometric surveillance as national policy, which that is what they are preparing for. This is digital life under government suspicion. Everyone's a potential threat until proven otherwise. Now, again, guys, we have talked about this online stuff for a long time when it comes to the censorship, when it comes to taking away people's rights and profiles and locking people down and so on and so forth. But we've only seen little pockets here and there of that going on. We've seen the ideas and the policies presented, but we haven't actually seen them come online and enforced. Things are different now because they are active. This stuff is now becoming active. All the stuff that we've been talking about for the past few years that kind of just seems like that we were just rehashing the same old is now becoming active. And it's just downright incredibly dangerous what's going on. The main aspect of this legislative car crash is the mandatory age verification regime to access certain channels on platforms like Discord. Even Discord, if you guys don't know what Discord is, it's just a communication thing that you can use voice, video, or chat. That's what it is. Even platforms like Discord, UK users are now expected to verify their age using facial recognition or upload a government-issued ID. They're mandating gatekeepers now bolted to everything from messaging settings to content filters. I'm seeing picture after picture of people taking pictures of them trying to get on the Discord, and they've been locked out. Your account has been suspended. People are locking you out. It says it right here. By the way, for any UK users of Discord that are hit by the new online safety facial ID laws, do not use Discord's facial recognition to verify your age. If it thinks you look under 13, it will ban you for how many years under 13 it thinks you look. This person says, so it actually thought you were 12, and it says from the fact it banned me until 2027, it thought I looked like I was 11. You can see pictures here. Account has been suspended. Review the violations. Minimum age requirements is the rule that's been broken. According to Discord, it's all part of their privacy forward system, a description that does a lot of work for a feature that boots users off the platform for failing a machine's guess at their birth year. One such user, a 32-year-old adult, was flagged as under 13 and was instantly banned. It says, frankly, I'm insulted after the scanner misidentified them and removed access with no possibility for review. You can't get a human to review it anymore. Same thing on YouTube. Whenever I get something that says like your video has been blocked or taken down or anything like that, it's an AI algorithm that did it. And if I press the review button, I get an answer almost instantaneously saying that your review has been rejected. It wasn't looked at by a human. It was looked at by AI. They made their decision, and that's final. And this is what's going on when it comes to this. It says the ban isn't temporary, it's indefinite. The only appeal available is to age more visibly. There's no human being involved. There's no process to prove your existence as an adult beyond submitting your face to a machine you didn't ask for. This is a country that once rejected national ID cards on privacy grounds. Now it's handing out digital ones through the back door and pretending it's about safety. Most platforms don't even bother pretending like this. Some are geo-blocking the UK. Others are exiting entirely. The ones staying have two choices: implement invasive surveillance or risk government punishment, which we've talked about the punishment already, where they're saying at least 10% of your company revenue will be stripped if you continue to not obey by their rules. You'll knock down a company in a couple days. They can't exist. They have to follow with it. Websites are already disappearing. Users are being blocked from subreddits. Even the vague possibility of non-compliance is enough to make companies hit the kill switch on British access. The UK is fast becoming a digital no-fly zone. And amid all of this, the government wants you to believe that the real problem is circumvention. The natural reaction to a surveillance regime is, of course, resistance, and UK internet users have responded with a sudden and passionate embrace of VPNs. We'll talk about that in just a second. Google Trends show VPN searches exploding. Proton VPN posted a chart with traffic shooting into the stratosphere, adding dryly, pretty sure it's not footy this time, which is interesting. I know a lot of people use like Proton Mail and whatnot. For my wretched email, I've got it through Proton, but the people who sit at the board of Proton are people from the WEF, people who have come from the Department of Defense, very sketchy people that are all part of the globalists and the elites and everything like that. Even they rule Proton, and Proton's supposed to be the free encrypted stuff, so I wouldn't trust them either, just letting you know. Just a few minutes after the Online Safety Act went into effect last night, Proton VPN signups originating in the UK surged by more than 1,400%. Unlike previous surges, this one is sustained and is significantly higher than when France lost access to their adult content. People are trying to claw back a fraction of control over their online lives. They're doing what anyone under siege would do, finding a way around the walls. But instead of recognizing that maybe, just maybe, the system is broken, campaigners are demanding there be more bricks. And so we kind of get the idea what's going on. They talk about the petition, which the petition made it over 350,000 signatures. It requires 100,000 in order for Parliament to even debate the topic. It hit 350,000, and it's like a day after it did, Parliament issued a letter and said, tough luck. They didn't even debate it because they don't care. That's the thing. That's what I've been trying to talk about for a long time, is it's an illusion. Voting is an illusion. Protesting is an illusion. I've talked about that before. Protesting is nothing more than going out and asking your slave master to give you a little bit more slack on the chain around your neck. That's what it is. And so when we talk about these petitions and stuff like that, in regards to agenda that we know must go through, they don't care. They're going to do what they've been told to do. And then in this case, this is what we see going on in here. So when it comes to the VPN thing, because I know a lot of people are like, well, what about VPNs? What's going to happen to VPNs? A lot of people are asking about that. They're already working on it. UK is already working on a VPN ban. Russia's working on a VPN ban. I know the United States, they're getting ready to follow suit with this stuff. They've got VPN ban stuff, legislation all ready to go, but they got to get their first step out the door, which we'll talk about in just a second. They're already working on it. North Korea has banned VPNs. China has banned VPNs. Australia is getting ready to do the same thing. So VPNs will soon be on their way out as well. So this is just another indication of really what's going on with trying to lock down this internet. They want to restrict people's access to information. They don't want anybody to be anonymous online. They're trying to make it so they can't plan things or communicate, that they can track any communication that actually does happen. It's all about just locking this thing down. Now, keep in mind, the internet was created by DARPA. It used to be called DARPANet before it became the internet, so that should tell you everything. The internet was never this free bastion like a lot of people thought. It was always being watched. Always being watched. We see here, the UK's Online Safety Act is already causing protests to be hidden. A law meant to shield kids from adult content is now hiding protest footage from adults. You can see the picture here. Due to local laws, we are temporarily restricting access to this content until X estimates your age. But I thought Elon Musk was all about free speech. Why are things being blocked on his website because of this? Interesting. British users attempting to view video of anti-mass migration protests. You guys hearing that? British users attempting to view videos of anti-mass migration protests on Twitter found themselves blocked on Friday, coinciding with the day that the UK's sweeping Online Safety Act took effect. So any video showing protests against the invasion that has been happening in Europe, which is worse than what we have in the United States, is now being blocked from people in the United Kingdom from viewing it. Imagine that. Enacted by the previous Conservative government and continued by the current Labour government, which is just confirmation that they're both on the same team. They're both wings of the same bird. It doesn't matter if you have Conservative or Republican by your name, and it doesn't matter if you have Democrat or Liberal by your name. The fact is they are all working for the same team. All of them. Just, you gotta figure that out. If you haven't figured it out, I'm telling you, you just have to get there. The legislation is already being condemned for facilitating online censorship under the veil of child protection. They are using children in order to issue dystopian lockdown. There's been a ton of these bills being introduced in the United States. I've gone over a lot of them in the past year, where it's individual states that are trying to get online age verification gates and stuff planted in their states, and they all use for children's safety. They don't care about the kids. We just talked about how they're trying to get rid of a law where Catholic priests have to reveal that there's been child abuse. These are the same people telling you that we're trying to protect the kids. No, you're not. They're just using it because they can pull at the heartstrings of you to get your support. Although sold to the public as a safeguard against minors encountering explicit content, the enforcement mechanisms are now being used to restrict access to politically charged material. Is anybody surprised by that? The protests in question were sparked by outrage over an incident in Epping where a migrant allegedly assaulted a 14-year-old girl while living in a taxpayer-funded motel. Demonstrations followed swiftly, but footage of these events is now being filtered from UK audiences because they don't want you to see that. Users attempting to access the protest content were met with the message stating due to local laws, they are temporarily restricting access to that content until X estimates your age. Same thing with what was going on with Discord. We're going to use AI to estimate your age and see if we'll allow you to see it or not. The restricted material reportedly included scenes of arrests and clashes during the protests, not the kind of content the law claimed to target. To meet the law's requirements, X has implemented various age estimation strategies. These techniques, originally framed as tools to shield minors from graphic material, are now being used to restrict access to politically relevant video, with companies facing penalties up to 18 million euro or pound, $24 million, or 10% of their global revenue. Platforms are expected to err heavily on the side of caution. The result is a system that punishes openness and silences dissent under threat of financial ruin. Elon Musk, who owns X, did not refer directly to the block protest videos, of course not, but spoke bluntly about the law's broader intent. And he said its purpose is suppression of the people. This is a trick of basically, I'm not going to address what my own company is doing, because that's going to make it look bad because I am supposedly the bastion of free speech. And so I'm just going to put out something that people will just get emotionally charged over and will support. So he said the person said the Online Safety Act was never about protecting anybody, and Elon Musk said its purpose is to suppression of the people, even though his own company is literally following along with it. But he doesn't mention that, because if he posts something like that, everybody's going to go, yay, Elon's on our side, even though his company is doing the exact same thing. I hope you guys realize that it's just theater. It's just theater. It's the same thing that we see with politicians. Trump's been doing it the whole time. He's just constantly going out there, I'm for this, while his administration does the opposite. The Free Speech Union, which had repeatedly warned about the law's implications, responded quickly. If you have a standard X account in the UK, presumably the majority of for the majority of the British users, it appears that you may not be able to see any protest footage that contains violence. Who deems what's violent and what's not? They do. We're aware of one censored post that shows the arrest being made. An organization stated, we warned repeatedly about how censorious this piece of legislation would be. Yeah, and we can see here talking about the signatures on the petition. Doesn't matter. VPNs as of now are okay, but that they're getting ready to go after those as well, and so on and so forth. So this is a way to restrict as much access as possible. As much access as possible. So here in the United States, I've talked about this several times, 3 or 4 times. I mainly brought it up last year. It was introduced last year, got shut down, and now it's being introduced again this year. This is here in the United States. COSA reintroduced. Child Safety Bill raises alarms over internet surveillance, digital ID, and free speech risks. And so this is being introduced. This is the Kids Online Safety Act. Again, has to do with the kids. We're not going to go through the article. I've talked about it before. I've got videos on it, but I do want to let you guys know that it's identical to what the UK just instituted over on their side right now. It's almost like whoever wrote the legislation over in the UK wrote this one as well. Think about that. But it's identical. In the name of kids' safety, they're going to start adding age gates to everything that has, quote unquote, what they deem as adult content. And that's anything from protest videos to Discord servers and it's so vague that I've talked about how if you go onto like an MSN news article that has comments open, if there's something that could be deemed as adult in the comments, you would need to verify your age before you can even view the article. That's how vague in general this thing is written. So just to let you know, this is absolutely something that they're doing, or they're getting ready to do here. And I've talked about how there's individual states that have been doing it. One of the main front runners that has been trying to get this stuff introduced is somebody that so many prophecy people love, which is Josh Hawley. Josh Hawley was one of the very first to introduce a state thing like this, age gate verification and digital ID. I kid you not. But because he's a Republican and he supports Trump, then it's all okay, right? That's what I've been told. Now we got this. Speaking of individual states, Supreme Court urged to halt Mississippi's online digital ID law over free speech and privacy concerns. Being anonymous online faces a pivotal threat as Mississippi's digital ID law pushes private speech through a government filter. NetChoice has filed an emergency application with the U.S. Supreme Court to halt the enforcement of Mississippi's online age verification digital ID law, House Bill 1126, after the Fifth Circuit stayed a preliminary injunction without explanation. If you're in Mississippi, I'd be paying attention to this. I'd be paying attention to this big time. The group is urging the court to reinstate the district court's ruling and protect First Amendment rights, which argues are under immediate threat. The Mississippi law compels every person, regardless of age, to verify their identity before creating accounts on social media platforms and requires minors to obtain explicit parental consent. So if you want to log in on a social media site and you're in Mississippi, if this thing goes live, you will have to present your ID to do so. The thing is places like YouTube and stuff like that are technically classified as social media, but I don't know if that falls in line with this. So again, something to look into. NetChoice argues that this framework unconstitutionally imposes content-based parental consent, age verification, and monitoring and censorship requirements for vague categories of speech on social media websites. The emergency filing warns of far-reaching consequences, asserting that the act will prevent access to that expression of some users entirely, including those unwilling or unable to verify their age, and minors who cannot secure parental consent. And we're not going to go through the rest of this. If you're interested, go check it out, especially if you're in Mississippi, so you guys have a better idea of what's going on with this. So I would definitely look into this further if you're in Mississippi, and hope that this gets blocked in some way, because that's the furthest overreach that I've seen yet in the United States. All right, back to the UK. This is pretty interesting, because along with that online verification bill that just went live, we got this. The UK introduces online speech monitoring police. Free speech in the United Kingdom reaches dire new lows. It was already at the lowest of lows before, but here we go. If you're in the UK and you've ever dared to type a mildly spicy opinion about immigration into the vast, I love this, about immigration into the vast and idiotic circus that is social media. Oh, very true. You might now be under surveillance by a shiny new government outfit with a name so Orwellian it sounds like it was cooked up during a slow afternoon in North Korea's Ministry of Truth. Now, again, I've made this point before, and I want to go ahead and make it again. When you look at people like George Orwell and Huxley, and the things like 1984 and Brave New World, and those dystopian people, those dystopian books and everything like that. A lot of people say that was a warning of what's coming. When you do the research on it, you realize that the men who wrote those books were actually a part of the very same group that was helping install them. Those books were not warnings. They were manuals. They were telling us what they were going to do to us. And so it's just one of those things that we got to realize, that the same people who wrote those books were the same people who were designing the things that we're seeing today. It says the UK has officially launched a national internet intelligence investigations team, title that manages to be both comically vague and terrifyingly specific. This is the stuff that authors of dystopian novels, again, they say, have been warning about. They're not warning. They've been telling us what they are actually doing to us. The Frankenstein of a task force, stitched together from officers across the country and headquartered in Westminster's National Police Coordination Center, has been given the noble mission of snooping through your posts, likes, and digital mutterings for any whiff of anti-migrant sentiment. The government has decided that free thought is a public safety risk. Jump down. It says the Home Office insists that this is all very necessary. According to a leaked letter the Telegraph obtained from Dame Diana Johnson, policing minister and part-time press release poet, The squad will focus on exploiting internet intelligence to help local police forces anticipate unrest. Exploit, not monitor, not observe, but exploit. It's all part of the grand techno-utopian fantasy where public order is maintained by not policing actual crimes, but by interpreting emojis and out-of-context Facebook posts. And so this is stuff that they've been doing for a while. This is stuff that they've issued this stuff out. You guys remember during 2020 when they had all the nudge units and whatnot that were online, and they were gathering information from posts and social media accounts and stuff like that. They were taking all the information and they were going to them and trying to arrest people and everything like that. Well, we know that they've actually been doing just that, not just recently. We go here. It says Essex police actually sent officers to the home of journalist Alison Pearson over something she posted online. Meanwhile, a mother named Lucy Connolly received a prison sentence longer than some violent offenders after sharing a message deemed offensive following the Southport attacks. We've seen this stuff for a long time, but now because of the bill that was just became active and everything, they have introduced a brand new team in order to monitor these things and act accordingly. So it's only going to get worse from here. Now, for those of us on YouTube, y'all need to listen up to this one because this actually affects us. And so I hope y'all are ready for this. Because like I said, the hammer is coming down on the internet. So if you have not been paying attention, be paying attention right now. This is extending protections to more US-based teens. This is an announcement straight from Team YouTube. This is 8 hours ago that this came out. So starting August 13th, 2025, we'll begin rolling out an age estimation model to determine if a US-based user is under the age of 18. This will happen regardless of the birth date that you have entered into creating your account. We'll then use that to extend age-appropriate product experiences and protections to more teens, like enabling digital well-being tools and only showing non-personalized ads. What they're doing is they are now getting ready to activate an AI program that will determine what content you are watching on YouTube, and regardless of what age you put into your account when you created it, it will determine your age based on what you're watching and then start applying things like digital well-being, which will shut off videos after a certain amount of time telling you to go outside or read a book. They'll shut off personalized ads. They'll even make it so you can't watch content that is deemed adult, which we've seen those before where it says this is only, this contains violent stuff and you have to be 18 to watch it and everything. This is rolling out August 13th, 2025 for everybody. That includes us. It keeps going. These protections for teens are not new. We have just advanced technology to more accurately determine whether or not a user is under 18 and now able to extend these protections to more teenagers. Nope, this has nothing to do with teenagers. This has to do with restricting us. We've used this approach in other markets for some time where it is working well, and we are now gradually rolling it into the United States. How does it work? Here we go. The age estimation model uses a variety of signals such as YouTube activity and longevity of the account. If we determine you're under 18, you'll be notified. As always, you'll have the option to verify your age through government ID, selfie, or a credit card if you believe our age estimation model is incorrect. Exactly as what the UK is currently doing with their stuff. I hope you guys are listening. I hope you're paying attention because you may be faced with this. You may be faced for this. If we determine that a user is under 18, standard protections for teen accounts on YouTube will automatically be enabled. So it doesn't matter. You could be 70 years old, and if you have a grandkid that likes to watch SpongeBob on YouTube, The AI could determine that you're actually not that old and start locking your account down. That's what this is. These protections are already applied for users who tell us they are under 18 making their account, and so on and so forth. It goes through some of this stuff. For creators, so if somebody like me, based on our age estimation model, will apply some additional protections, including setting uploads as private by default for anyone, and restricting the ability to earn from gifts, which that doesn't really matter for me, but earn from gifts on vertical live streams and so on and so forth. Get ready, guys. Get ready. This starts August 13th, 2025. So just putting it out there, because this is a good way to address this and whatnot. If for some reason you can't access me on YouTube, if for some reason I'm all of a sudden not on YouTube anymore, I don't think that that's going to play a part into that, but who knows, maybe eventually in the future. But if you're somebody who's watching and you watch on YouTube and all of a sudden I'm not there, or YouTube has blocked you from being able to view my stuff or whatever it may be, remember I'm on Rumble. So again, the Rumble links are always in the description. You can have a direct link on my website. You can find it there. And I've been talking about it for a while. I really got to get it going. I just have to do it. It's just getting me to actually do it. But I'm going to have a third-party private Christian separate video streaming thing that I'm going to attach to my website that I'll eventually have there. So if for some reason it's not there, go to the Rumble side. As far as I know right now, Rumble is still not playing ball with all this. But they will eventually. We know who's behind Rumble, so we know that it'll eventually get there. But in the meantime, head over there. And then, like I said, I'm working on that third-party thing. So hopefully, if I can get myself to do it, I'll do it. And I'll get that set up, and that'll be on the website. So just a heads up, if that starts happening, like I said, I'm trying to have as many options as I can. We'll stay on YouTube as long as we can because it provides the best reach, and we're trying to outreach to people. But like I said, I've got backups and stuff going. So for those who want to know, that's what's up with that. All right. Just about done. Got a couple things left. We got this. Back here in the United States again. This bill would fine social media companies $5 million every day for not fighting terrorism. The Stop Hate Act wants social media platforms to report their moderation policies and outcomes to the government. And it's not only the censoral measure Representative Josh Gottheimer wants. The idea that the federal government even talked to social media platforms about their moderation was a major scandal after the Twitter files leak revealed that the Biden administration was privately leaning on one platform to suppress misinformation. The courts blocked officials from communicating with social media companies for several months on free speech grounds. A bipartisan bill, however, would make it mandatory for social media companies to work with federal government. The Stopping Terrorist Online Presence and Holding Accountable Tech Entities, or Stop Hate Act, would require companies to provide perennial reports on their moderation policies and violations they catch to the U.S. Attorney General. So this is going above and beyond what we have now, where they have backdoor access to go and find things if they want to. In this case, this would require the actual companies to take things that they moderate and actually send it to the Attorney General. Yeah, the same Attorney General that's covering for the Epstein stuff. Imagine that. The bill requires companies to issue specific policies for groups the federal government designates as terrorists, and the Director of National Intelligence to also begin reporting on terrorist usage of social media. Companies would be fined $5 million per day if they do not comply. Representative Josh Gottheimer, Democrat, and Don Bacon, Republican, had first proposed the bill in November of 2023, which I have that right here. This is the Stop Hate Act of 2023. But it died in committee at the time. Gottheimer and Bacon announced that they would be reintroducing the bill at the press conference on Wednesday alongside this Jonathan Greenblatt dude. This is what they do, is these bills, and what they do is they flood the circuit with a whole bunch of the same bills. So we talked about the COSA bill. Well, there's another one called the screen time. And then there's like 3 other bills that have all been introduced. They're identical. And so what they do is when one gets shot down, they have 4 other ones that can go through. And so when one picks up a little bit too much heat, or one spends a little bit too much time in the media and so on and so forth, they can shoot that one down. Everybody thinks it's a victory because they got it killed. But then there's 4 other ones that are getting ready to make their way through. And eventually one of them will make it. Eventually one will make it through. They're doing the same thing in this case as well. This is one of those that was shut down before, but they're reintroducing it, and they're going to keep pushing to get it done. He says there's no reason why anyone, especially terrorists or anyone online, should access social media platforms to promote radical, hate-filled violence, Scott Heimer said at the press conference. I'm just picturing him just pounding his fist on the podium like a dictator. He cited supportive social media comments about the May 2025 murder of 2 Israeli embassy staffers in Washington and the AI platform Grok's sudden decision to declare itself Mecha Hitler earlier this month. Meta, the company that runs Facebook and Instagram, is already known to have a list of dangerous individuals and organizations. I hope I'm on that list. My goal is to be on every list that they have. If I have not met that goal, I'm not satisfied. That list, which is banned from the platform. When the list was leaked to The Intercept in 2021, it included around 1,000 entries taken straight from the U.S. government's foreign terrorist list, as well as various foreign and domestic entries sourced to private think tanks. Hannah Byrne, former head of Meta's counterterrorism and dangerous organizations team, told The Intercept that her team was basically an extension of the government in 2020. Again, this is just showing, this is revealing this total fascist, the movement into the fascist group, into the corporatism, where the CEOs and the companies are merging with the government, and the top CEOs are basically hold more power than the politicians. And again, I'm not exaggerating. When you have a company like Palantir, you look at somebody like Peter Thiel. At this moment in time, I would say Peter Thiel has more power than Trump. You look at what Peter Thiel is plugged into, the data that he has, the reach into all sectors of the United States, private, government, military. I would say that Peter Thiel is more powerful right now than Donald Trump. And I believe that statement that I just said. But again, the majority of this country has never even heard of Peter Thiel or Palantir, which just goes to show where we currently sit. Finishing this off, let's take a look at Australia, because they're not too far behind. Again, Australia tends to be the guinea pig with a lot of this stuff. Australia is quietly introducing unprecedented age checks for search engines like Google. This is coming from July 10th. Basically, it says search engines are in line for the same age assurance technology behind the teen social media ban. The age checks will apply to logged-in users in a bid to limit children's access to content, like adult content. So again, for the sake of kids. But this is search engines. Search engines. From December 27th, Google and Microsoft will have to use some form of age assurance technology on users when they sign in or face fines of almost $50 million per breach. Australians will soon be subjected to mandatory age checks across the internet landscape in what has been described as a huge and unprecedented change. Search engines are next in line for the same controversial age assurance technology behind the teen social media ban, and other parts of the internet are likely to follow suit. At the end of June, Australia quietly introduced rules forcing companies such as Google and Microsoft to check the ages of logged-in users in an effort to limit children's access to harmful content, like adult content. But experts have warned that the move could compromise Australians' privacy online and may not do much to protect young people. You think? I have not seen anything like this anywhere else in the world. Of course, this was before the UK's thing just went live. As people learn about the implications of this, we will likely see people stepping up and saying, wait a minute, why wasn't I told about this? Why wasn't I told that this was going to happen? Again, starting December 27th, Google, which dominates the Australian search market with a share of more than 90%, and its rival Microsoft will have to use some form of age assurance technology on users when they sign in or face fines of almost $50 million, so on and so forth. Yeah, right here. So how will it work? How does it work? Search engines will have a suite of options to choose from for checking the ages of their Australian users. There are 7 main methods listed in the new regulations. Submit a photo ID, face scanning age estimation tools. Again, we just talked about a bunch of those. Credit card checks, digital ID, vouching by the parent of a young person, which would also still require the parent to submit an ID as well. Using AI to guess a user's age based on the data that the company already has. So like we talked about with YouTube thing, where they're going to go through all the stuff all the videos that you watch, and they're going to estimate your age based on that. They're going to do it when it comes to your search history as well, and relying on a third party that has already checked the user's age. He also warned that the new rules for search engines could be circumvented using virtual private networks or VPNs, which again, we have talked about. They are getting ready to introduce stuff to ban VPNs as well. Guys, all the years that we've been talking about the censorship and the lockdown that's coming on the internet and all these things, it has all been leading up to this. They are now starting to roll this stuff out. They're now starting to bring the hammer down on these things to get it done. And this is just from this side of things. There's another whole thing going on that I haven't talked about. It's from a group called Collective Shout, and many members in that group are actually members of the Australian Parliament. And what they have done is they have gone to the 2 major payment processors, MasterCard and Visa, and they have told them that in order to protect the kids, we need you to start removing certain or stop processing payments from certain companies on certain content in order to protect the children. And so digital storefronts across the internet are now starting to remove books, movies, TV shows, games, and starting to remove this content that they deem is too adult to have on there for whatever reason it is. Again, it's so general. Otherwise, they will refuse to process payments on the website. And since MasterCard and Visa are like when it comes out there, they own the monopoly practically. These companies have to fold. They have to do what they're being told to, otherwise their entire business will go down. This is where we're at.